Gayatri Muhammad. Om Bhuribhuvah Swaha Tatsaviturvarenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yonah Prachodayat. It took me a while to go live on one of the platforms, which was quite reluctant. We talk about a great source of inspiration, whom we term as a Srijak, and a reformist. A source of inspiration whose presence and whose life was adequate enough to motivate, inspire, guide hundreds and thousands of people, out of whom few were exemplary for the times. Few of them are the names that could further illuminate the lives of hundreds and thousands of the people. His presence was enough during those times to guide, mentor people just by taking the reference of his name. That was enough. Chattampi Swamikal, born in 1853, Mahasamadhi 1924. Born at Kollur in southern Travancore at that time. His father was Thamarasre Vasudeva Sharma, a Nambudri Brahmin, and mother was Nangamma Pillai in Nayar. Born in a Brahmin family, he was named as Kunjan Pillai, which means a small male boy. The work which he was able to accomplish in his life spread into several aspects. He was a multifaceted individuality. He could establish Vedic wisdom to many by his writings, simplified writings. He could work for the upliftment of women. He could work, excuse me, the caste-ridden division which was discriminating between one to another, he could make it become a bit obliterate. He promoted vegetarianism, non-violence, and much more. He was a source of accomplishment to many. That's most important to me, because we generally observe sages who excelled in their own lives to great heights, there is no doubt. And they're also able to inspire many whom they initiate. But this particular source is something which is beyond. He was not into saffron, but yet like a moving sun on the planet. The sun in the sky appears to be stationary, though it is not stationary. It too is moving around a larger sun. But he was like a sun, S-U-N, sun, who was moving around in between the people. Whosoever came into his contact was benefited out of it. That is the crux which I could draw when I was studying him. I could see a deep quest-born Jivatma into him, born to seek, learn, without making any excuses, wherever, whenever, in whatever conditions he was able to learn, he was able to gather some inputs of knowledge. He had a preparedness to grab that opportunity. And that started right from his birth onward. His parents were not financially affluent enough, not even able to arrange a basic education for him. He started picking words from the boys with whom he used to play. He started accumulating his vocabulary from the boys he was playing along with. Then there was a local Brahmin in the village who used to take classes at his home for Sanskrit. Like Eklavya, Chattampi Swamikal, then the name was then it was not his name, his name was Kunjan Pillai. He used to stand outside the house, overhear the teachings of that Brahmin teacher, and start gathering knowledge. In the 19th century, it was as if Eklavya reborn. It was like Eklavya reborn. So that was the kind of quest he had, not making complaints, but seeking an opportunity to grab knowledge wherever. One of his relatives observed this kind of an insatiable quest into him, and he said that he cannot be left like that. So he took him with this good reference to one of the exalted teachers around by the name Pettayil Raman Pillai Asana. He took him to him, informed him about the insatiable quest of this boy. The teacher he was absolutely ready. He said, I will teach this boy without any fee. Okay, ask him to join. Chattampi was the title bestowed upon him by the teacher who appointed him as the monitor of the class. Then, after acquiring some basic education, the quest was again insatiable. In 1870, with whatever resource and influence he had, he started a group by the name Gyan Prajagram, a group of people who used to gather periodically and organize certain lectures, invite illustrious, worthy scholars to deliver lectures on their own respective subjects. He too would be taking few classes, but he was moreover the organizer for such a program. One day, he came across a sadhu, a wanderer, an avadhut, who initiated him into the spiritual world. He gave him Bala Subramanya mantra to propitiate, and he started his sadhana. Kunjan Pillai started his sadhana, and that sadhana gave him tons and tons of energy. That is the science of the mantra Vigyan. He was able to gather a lot of energy. He was already a reservoir of energy, as we observe, but after having the mantra sadhana, that energy rose to unbelievable levels. He had some problem while making two ends meet. To sustain his family, he had to struggle a lot to earn his livelihood. He worked as a laborer at construction site. Then he also joined as a clerk in some office, but that job of a clerk could not retain him because that abstained him from his spiritual seeking, the kind of quest he had, how to gratify that. That job was a confinement, became a barrier. So he left the job. After that, in one of the conference, he met a very worthy being. That conference was organized by the princely state at the time. He met a scholar by the name Subba Jatta Padikala. He was from Tamil Nadu. He was highly impressed from the teacher. The teacher was very well versed in our ancient Indian scriptures, the Vedic wisdom, and he spared no moment to influence upon him and join him and went along with him to learn the Vedic wisdom. He stayed there with him for several years, maybe serving him in what manner, I don't know. I didn't find a mention to that. But he spent many years over there learning about not only the Vedic wisdom, he also learned about Siddha medicine science. He also learned about martial arts. And he was also able to learn about music. So his quest was simply devouring whatever came to its contact. Then he also translated a work, Nij Anand Vilasam, into simple Malayalam. He translated many books. He wrote many books. He simplified many books. There is not a limit to that. He did enough into that context. There is no doubt about that. To the extent that he was so curious to learn about Christianity, he confined himself with one of the Christian missionaries to one of the church at some desolate place and learned everything about Christianity. This does not gratify him. There was no end to it. Then he wanted to learn all about Islam. Then he learned about Quran. He was also able to read, recite Quranic verses into that traditional way as it is done. Then, after having this knowledge, he started wandering throughout the nation with certain wandering monks, whom we term as avadhuts. So he started and he crisscrossed the entire nation. Then a time came when now his final boon was to be given by the Almighty. It happened so that he was moving around a village called Vada Viswaram, Vada Viswaram in Tamil Nadu, where he met another Avdut with whom he spent several months practicing esoteric sadhana in the forest. It is now said and believed that Avdut whom he met belonged to the sect of the immortal great masters, the great sages who are Chiranjeevi in southern India, those Siddhas. They gave him the science of self realization. He underwent self realization and then returned back to Kerala. The most prominent disciples which he had, who could spread message and do kalyan to the lives of thousands of people, were like Narayan Guru, Neelakantha Tirthpada, Tirthpada Paramahans. Swami Chinmayananda got inspired by him, Swami Abhedananda got inspired by him, and the list would really run too long, though we do not have all the names, but these are few of them who were further able to inspire and impress upon the life of people with the spiritual light that runs into several hundreds of thousands. As a sannyasi, his name was Sri Vidyadhiraj Param Bhattarka Chattampi Swamikal. He underwent his samadhi in 1925. His samadhi is there. This samadhi sthanam is there in Panama near Kollam. It's a Panama ashram where his samadhi is based right now. Among his main teachings were that one should not project any kind of a recognition or an ego after accumulating material accomplishments, because they are something which are not going to stay. One should always side with something which is eternal, the true essence of the existence. The whole complete universe is an outcome of the one source. And whatever seems to be differentiated is just merely a delusion, nothing more than that. This universal mind is one, although we see distinct minds, people behaving distinctively, but at the back end, they all are integrated as one. For the work which he did for the women, he said, male arrogance is the primary cause which has disallowed the women empowerment. And to disallow women from empowerment is criminal and immoral. These are the extreme words he used. He was a reformist, he was a sage, he was a self-realized soul, he was an author, he knew martial arts, you name it. You can see, you can observe as if a bundle of virtues, divine virtues, gathered into one bouquet is Chattampi Swamikal. I have given a very small mention about his life. His life is not confined to that much alone. But since I'm only making use of a few minutes, this enough should inspire you to know more about him, seek more about him, more about his writings, the subjects which he has written upon, simplified. And I believe they must be available in English as well, although I've not come across much, must be available. So it's our prime responsibility that we try to work out upon the life of those sages who have contributed, who have rather ignited their own life, who have undergone a lot of austerity. For what cause? For the cause of ancient Indian wisdom. Revival, endorsement, establishment, grounding of the knowledge that was bequeathed upon us by our great masters, by our ancestors. Having said so, I pay my highest obeisance to Swami चट्टम्पी स्वामिकल महाराज, ओम ही सत्य है, ओम ही सत्य है, ओम ही सत्य है।